Yes, that's
That
it.
is his first business, but also to evolve and finally to exceed himself. He has to enlarge his partial being into a complete being, his partial consciousness into an integral consciousness. He has to achieve mastery of his environment, but also world union and world harmony. He has to realize his individuality, but also to enlarge it into a cosmic self and a universal and spiritual delight of existence. A transformation, a chastening, and correction of all that is obscure, erroneous, and ignorant in his mentality, an ultimate arrival at a free and wide harmony and luminousness of knowledge and will and feeling and action and character, is the evident intention of his nature. It is the ideal which the creative energy has imposed on his intelligence, a need implanted by her in his mental and vital substance. But this can only be accomplished by his growing into a larger being and a larger consciousness, self enlargement, self fulfillment, self evolution from what he partially and temporarily is in his actual and apparent nature to what he completely is in his secret self and spirit, and therefore can become even in his manifest existence, is the object of his creation. This hope is the justification of his life upon earth amidst the phenomena of the cosmos. The outer apparent man, an ephemeral being subject to the constraints of his material embodiment and imprisoned in a limited mentality, has to become the inner real man, master of himself and his environment, and universal in his being. In a more vivid and less metaphysical language, the natural man has to evolve himself into the divine man. The sons of death have to know themselves as the children of immortality. It is on this account that the human birth can be described as the turning point in the evolution, the critical stage in earth nature.
This last sentence he has repeated many times in many places. When man comes on the scene, then it's a crucial turning point for the evolution in the earth. He is again repeating the same thing. We will go through each sentence quickly and see whether it's clear what he's saying. He has told us very clearly that there are four aims for man in the physical world, depending at which level of consciousness he is. Okay? Yesterday, this was very interesting. I had to meet some students, and one of the children asked me, "What is the aim of life?" He's quite an intelligent boy. And he asked me, "What is the aim of life?" So I immediately replied, "The aim of life for man is to realize God." And then when I came home after 2 3 hours, I realized that that was the wrong answer. The answer should be what Srivda said in the previous chapter, the four aims of life. Okay? The four aims of life, because it depends. Suppose you tell a beggar in the street, to tell him that your aim in life is to reach the divine, is absolutely not correct at all. So, Srivda so beautifully explained, if you are a material man, there's an aim. And if you are a spiritual man, there's an aim. But if you are a spiritual man who is not rejecting the world, there's an aim. And if you are following Srirno, there's again the best aim of all. You become the divine instrument and then you come down to the physical world. Okay? So that's what he has told us. Now, if man has to do these, achieve these aims, what he has to do? What he has to do first is he has to affirm himself in the universe. Okay? So he is explaining also what it means. In all the potentialities that you have, whether you are spiritual or not, you have to develop yourself. Okay? You have to develop your mind through education and self-study. You have to develop your vital in sensitivity and beauty and aesthetics. Then you have to also develop your body, your very body, by becoming absolutely free of disease and incapacities. So that's the aim. That is what you do by affirming himself in the universe. So Sridhar is saying, man is there to affirm himself in the universe. That is his first business. The second business is also to evolve and finally to exceed himself. Look at those words. He is not at all speaking of spirituality. Okay? He's just saying, finally you have to exceed yourself. What does it mean to exceed yourself? You realize that you are not body, mind, life. That is what you think you are now. So that idea you have to exceed. You have to become the soul, the psychic being or the self. You have to become that and go beyond the body, mind, life. He has to enlarge his partial being, the partial being is the body, mind, life, into a complete being, his partial consciousness into an integral consciousness. He has to achieve mastery of his environment. So if he is not leaving the material aims, he is saying he has to become master of the environment. That's what science is trying to do, but you have to do it in the right way. But also world union and world harmony. So he is including so many different types of things. Even world union must be there. Okay? Even the United Nations must become a perfect governing body in the world. Okay? And world harmony. He has to realize his individuality, but also to enlarge it into a cosmic self. So first you develop your individuality, as ego was the helper, and then ego becomes the bar because you go into a cosmic self and universal spiritual delight of existence. A transformation, a chastening, purification, chastening and correction of all that is obscure, erroneous and ignorant in mentality, and ultimate arrival at a free and wide harmony and luminousness. Note the word wide. So it has to be a harmony at the mental level, at the vital level, even at the physical level. And luminousness of knowledge and will and feeling and action. Now this phrase also you see how he includes everything. Knowledge, the mind. The will is a Sat, Chit, Shakti, feeling and action. Okay, feeling. So he is always going back to the Satchidananda. Okay, knowledge and will, Chit, Shakti. Feeling. Okay, feeling would correspond largely to the Ananda. And action. Action would be the Shakti. Okay, and character is the evident intention of his nature. This is what he has to achieve. It is the ideal which the creative energy has imposed on his intelligence. Now, creative energy is also a very interesting word. Only energy without creation is the Shakti. But creative energy is Chit Shakti because it is creating in an intelligent manner. So that's a Chit Shakti has imposed on his intelligence a need implanted by her. Who is her? The energy, the Prakriti, in his mental and vital substance. He's saying in different words, okay? He's saying a need implanted by her in his mental and vital substance. Earlier he said the same thing in other words. He said that the idea of progress is inherent in man. Now he's saying the same idea in different words. A need implanted by her in his mental and vital substance. The idea of progress is not there in the animal at all. In man it is there. Okay? He knows that he can make his life better. He knows he can have a better control over his vital and mind. Okay? But this can only be accomplished by growing into a larger being and a larger consciousness. Again, he is using different words. Earlier he has said, enlarge it into a cosmic self and universal spiritual delight. Okay? Now you have to exceed yourself. Okay? Now he's saying the same thing in different words. But this can be accomplished by his growing into a larger being and a larger consciousness. Self-enlargement, self-fulfillment, self-evolution from what he partially and temporarily is in his actual and apparent nature to what he completely is in his secret self and spirit, and therefore can become, even in his manifest existence, is the object of his creation. So he has to realize what he is, but not neglect the body-mind life. That also has to be fully realized, and is using the word self-fulfillment. The mind has the right to be fulfilled, the vital has the right to be fulfilled, even his body has the right to be fulfilled. So the fulfillment, we have said this many times, the fulfillment of mind is to have knowledge without ignorance. The self-fulfillment of the vital is complete enjoyment and power. And the self-fulfillment of the body is a disease-free, death-free body. That would be self-fulfillment of the body. All this he has to do. First he has to enlarge himself, then he has to fulfill himself through evolution. From what he partially and temporarily is. And what is that? The body-mind life. He thinks he is the body-mind life, which he partially is and temporarily, only in time and space. Is in his actual and apparent nature to what he completely is in his secret self and spirit, and therefore he can become, even in his manifest existence, is the object of his creation. In other words, his object is not to run away from the physical world, but to remain in the physical world in the manifest existence. The physical world is a manifest existence, and he has to develop himself fully here, not in another faraway supra-terrestrial world. He has to do it here in the terrestrial world itself. Okay? This hope is a justification of his life upon earth amidst the phenomena of the cosmos. Sri often uses this word, justification of his life. His life right now is subject to death and suffering. And so you may feel, what is this life? Okay? Why is it like this? But then, if you think of the evolution and where you have to go, it becomes justified. And that justification comes only after you have experienced and understood the aim of life. To become evolved towards the divine. The phenomena of the cosmos, and we're putting it very mildly, but it's all the imperfections and the death and the suffering and everything, that's a phenomenon of consciousness. Otherwise, you would not have used the word justification. The justification for all the suffering and all the effort that you are doing, the suffering and is worth because of the final result. Okay? If you find fault with your own difficulties, then you will not understand and you will not justify your life on earth. But when you know that the final aim is a perfection of body-mind life, then you will feel that the suffering is justified. That's what he said. The outer apparent man, similarly two words, outer, the body-mind life, apparent man. Because he is not the real man. The real man is the psychic and the self. But he is the apparent man, an ephemeral being, something transitory, very, very superficial. Being subject to the constraints of his material embodiment and imprisoned in a limited mentality, has to become the inner real man. The inner real man, he has to realize his psychic and also the self. Master of himself and his environment and universal being. This is what he has to become, and there is a hope. And the hope justifies the effort. In a more vivid and less metaphysical language, the natural man has to evolve himself into the divine man. So you can take it as an aphorism. Okay. In more vivid and less metaphysical language, the natural man has to evolve himself into the divine man. In other place he says, man has to become the divine, and the divine also has to become man. So, the sons of death, other again poetic phrase, the sons of death have to know themselves as the children of immortality. When is that going to be possible? In the supramental race. Because even your body would become immortal. Not only the soul, but even the body would become immortal. It is on this account that the human birth can be described as a turning point in the evolution, the critical stage in Earth's nature. Why? He has also told us earlier that because nature creates man so that impatient of her own slow progress, now the evolution can become conscious because of yoga. Okay? And man is part of nature, so nature is very satisfied when she creates a man. And that's the critical turning point because the evolution can become now conscious and not mechanical and slow. That's what it is. We go to the next para. It follows at once.
Can you just enumerate the 4 aims of life, like 1, 2, 3, 4?
Yeah. Okay. The first is for the material man. He does not believe that there is anything beyond the physical world. And so what can he do? What can be the aim of his life? If he is a selfish man, the aim of his life is to get a good education, get a good degree, get a good job, raise a family, and leave his properties to his children. That's more than enough aim for the material man. But suppose that man is not selfish and is slightly more idealistic, okay? He can do work for the humanity. That's another aim possible for the material man. And suppose he is even more inventive or something, then he can do something for mankind. He can make a discovery, scientific discovery. He can make the mobile, he can make the TV, okay, so that the coming generations benefit from him. So he is not that selfish. He is doing something for mankind. Or if you are not capable of creating mobiles and TVs and aeroplanes and cars, what you can do is you plant an apple tree. You are not benefiting. Okay? But the posterity are what? The one coming in front. That is not posterity. Huh? So they will benefit. Okay? So you do something for the benefit of mankind. This is the aim for the material man. There is another aim also which is said in the material man. You help others. Suppose in a flood situation or an epidemic situation, you go and help others. Okay? That also is less selfish. So if you are selfish, one aim. If you are not selfish, several aims possible. This is for the material man. So suppose you are not a material man and you are a spiritual man, you to become a Buddhist. You see the physical world as unreal and you reject it. So the first is the material aim of life. The second is the supra-terrestrial aim of life. Okay? Sorry, supra-terrestrial is the third one. The supra-cosmic. Okay? The supra-cosmic means like the Buddhists and the Mayavadin, you disappear into the infinite. Okay? Supra-cosmic. Okay? Not supra-terrestrial. Supra-terrestrial, the planes above the terrestrial world, and those are the spiritual planes of consciousness. Okay? So that's the third one. There you decide that you want to live in the supra-physical worlds forever. Okay? So the second one, the supra-cosmic, disappears into the infinite. He is not even interested in living in the spiritual planes of consciousness. There are many beings who live in the spiritual planes of consciousness. So first, material aim. Second, supra-cosmic aim, disappearing into the infinite, like the Buddhists and the Mayavadis. They want to do nothing with the physical world or anything, not even the spiritual world. Third is the spiritual worlds, the supra-terrestrial worlds. There is a difference between the supra-cosmic and the supra-terrestrial. Supra-terrestrial, level 2. Supra-cosmic, even beyond level 3. Okay? So, that's it. Then the last one in the supra-terrestrial is you reach to the highest level, then you come back to Srivamdasa's integral yoga. And don't stay stuck in the spiritual planes of consciousness. Take birth again with the divine nature and help the others. So these are the 4 aims that he has described very detailed manner in the previous chapter. Okay, so to repeat the names, I told you what they are. First is the material aim, the second is the supra-cosmic aim, and the next is the supra-terrestrial aim, and the fourth one is the supra-terrestrial but coming back into the physical world, ascent and descent. So these are the four aims for man. Now, he has told us that for this he has to develop himself. He has to develop himself not only spiritually but even materially. Now we go to the next para. Somebody has to read. Jasmine, if you have the text, you can read if you want.
Yes, I can read. I can
Go
read.
ahead. It follows.
It follows at once that the knowledge we have to arrive at is not truth of the intellect. It is not right belief, right opinions, right information about oneself and things. That is only the surface mind's idea of knowledge. To arrive at some mental conception about God and ourselves and the world is an object good for the intellect, but not large enough for the spirit. It will not take us, the conscious sons of infinity. Ancient Indian thought meant by knowledge a consciousness which possesses the highest truth in a direct perception and in self experience. To become, to be the highest that we know is the sign that we really have the knowledge. For the same reason, to shape our practical life, our actions as far as may be in consonance with our intellectual notions of truth and right, or with a successful pragmatic knowledge, is not and cannot be the ultimate aim of our life. Our aim must be to grow into our true being, our being of spirit, the being of the supreme and universal existence, consciousness, delight, Sachidananda. The other thing was an ethical or a vital fulfillment.
Yeah. Okay, that's a parenthetical phrase put in the middle. Okay, so we go back to the beginning of the para. It follows. Okay? He's using logic. It follows at once that the knowledge we have to arrive at. Remember, he has said that you have to exceed yourself. So, exceeding yourself, he is explaining what is meant by that. It follows at once that the knowledge we have to arrive at is not the truth of the intellect. So, what is the truth of the intellect? It can be scientific knowledge and can also be philosophical knowledge, okay? But not experiential knowledge. Okay? It's a truth of the intellect. It is not right belief, right opinions, right information about oneself and things. That is only the surface mind's idea of knowledge. Surface mind's idea of knowledge, all our education systems are only going to give you knowledge of the intellect. Okay? You can be a management expert, you can be an engineer, you can be a software engineer. All this is only mental knowledge. It's of no use spiritually. To arrive at some mental conception about God and ourselves and the world is an object good for the intellect, but not large enough for the spirit. Okay? So we stop here what he's saying. The first type of knowledge is mental knowledge, but even in mental knowledge, to get some idea of God and ourselves and the world. So now again you see he's stressing the four aspects. About God, the transcendental. About ourselves, the individual. And the world, the cosmic. The divine takes these three stands. So he's saying to arrive at some mental concept about God, ourselves, and the world is an object good for the intellect. Even if it's theoretical, it is good. But it's not enough for the spirit. It's not enough for spirituality. Mental knowledge is not enough for spirituality. In many, many places, even in the Gita, it says that spiritual knowledge cannot be attained by studying books. Okay? Nor can it come by tapasya, nor can it come by this, that. It has to come by bhakti to the Lord. That's the Gita. Okay? So here Sridhar is saying If you get intellectual knowledge about God, the transcendental, the universal, and the person, it's very good, but it's not enough. You have to exceed yourself. You have to go beyond the mind. And what is that? Self-replay. It will not make us the conscious sons of immortality. Conscious sons of immortality, you can get only in the level 2, in the spiritual planes of consciousness. That also not fully, but partly. Ancient Indian thought meant by knowledge a consciousness which possesses the highest truth in a direct perception and in self-experience. Now, let's look at this closely. Ancient Indian thought meant by knowledge, vidya. They were using the word vidya. Now, vidya is spiritual knowledge, and avidya is ignorance. So, this was stressing. Ancient Indian thought meant by knowledge that consciousness possesses the highest truth, spiritual knowledge, in a direct perception. What is meant by direct perception? Without the aid of senses. Okay? Without the aid of senses. Because if you are using senses, it is indirect perception. Direct perception is identification and self-experience. So both these words, direct perception and self-experience, mean identification with what you want to know. To become, to be the highest that we know is a sign that we really have the knowledge. When you become what you want to know, that is the real knowledge. Okay? Not a mental knowledge. For the same reason, to shape our practical life, our actions, where is one? I lost it. Just 1 minute. Which possesses in a direct way. To become, to be the highest that we know is a sign that we really have the knowledge. For the same reason, to shape our practical life, our actions, as far as may be in consonance with our intellectual notions of truth and right, or with a successful pragmatic knowledge, or ethical or vital fulfillment. So he is putting that as a parenthetical phrase. Is not and cannot be the ultimate aim of our life. So simply going by practical life is not enough for spiritual life. That's very is not and cannot be the ultimate of our life. Our aim must be to grow into our true being, our being of spirit, not the being of matter, mind, life. Okay? The being of the supreme and universal existence, consciousness, delight. And now he is openly saying Satchidananda. Normally he does not use the word Satchidananda when he says universal existence, consciousness, delight. So we have to realize what Satchidananda is. That is true spiritual knowledge, not mental knowledge. Okay? So you have to exceed yourself. By only exceeding yourself, you can get that knowledge. Vidya. Get out of avidya and go to Vidya. We have 8 minutes, so we can read one more time. All our existence depends. So, Archana Ji, if she has a text, she can read. Sometimes she is engaged in the dispensary and she can't. So in that case, somebody else will have to.
Yes, Pankaj, I can read just 1 minute. But
Okay.
I'm not at Pandit. I'll read just 1 second.
Okay. All our existence.
Yeah. All our existence depends on that existence. It is that which is evolving in us. We are a being of that existence, a state of consciousness of that consciousness, an energy of that conscious energy, a will to delight of being, delight of consciousness, delight of energy born of that delight. This is the root principle of our existence. But our surface formulation of these things is not that. It is a mistranslation into the terms of the ignorance. Our I is not that spiritual being which can look on the divine existence and say, That am I. Our mentality is not that spiritual consciousness. Our will is not that force of consciousness. Our pain and pleasure, even our highest joys and ecstasies, are not the delight of being. On the surface, we are still an ego figuring self, an ignorance turning into knowledge, a will laboring towards true force, a desire seeking for the delight of existence, to become ourselves by exceeding ourselves. So we may turn the inspired phrases of a half blind seer who knew not the self of which he spoke. I'll repeat again, leaving the parasynthesis.
Yeah.
To become ourselves by exceeding ourselves is the difficult and dangerous necessity, the cross surmounted by an invisible crown which is imposed on us, the riddle of the true nature of his being proposed to man by the dark sphinx of the inconscience below and from within and above by the luminous veiled sphinx of the infinite consciousness and eternal wisdom confronting him as an inscrutable divine Maya. To exceed ego and be our true self, to be aware of our real being, to possess it, to possess the real delight of being is therefore the ultimate meaning of our life. Here, it is the concealed sense of our individual and terrestrial existence.
Fairly big para. We'll have a quick look at it. I hope we can, we've got 5 minutes, I hope we can finish it. All our existence, note the lowercase existence. Okay? E is lowercase. Depends on that existence, cap. Existence cap. So our existence is body mind life. Our normal life in the physical world depends on that existence. That existence is the existence is Sat. So Sat Chit Ananda. So our small existence is possible only because Satchidananda exists. That's what it is. It is that which is evolving in us. So the divine element in us is evolving. And it is evolving through evolution and many, many lives. Every time we are taking a new body, mind, life and evolving. Okay? It is that which is evolving in us. We are a being of that existence. Okay? A state of consciousness of that consciousness. An energy of that conscious energy. A will to delight of being, delight of consciousness, delight of energy, born of that delight. This is the root principle of our existence. So what is the root principle? You are divine essentially. Later in the paragraph, he will tell you, Soham Asmi, that I am. Okay? So this is absolutely contrary to the other religions. Man is a sinner. Okay? And he has to suffer the consequences of that. In India, no, you are divine essentially. Find your divinity. You are not a body mind life. You are the real divine. So we are that. We are a being of that existence, a state of consciousness in the an energy of that conscious energy, a will to delight of that being. So all, first of all, is substance. Our body mind life is a fallen substance of that subtle substance, which is Sat. A state of consciousness of that consciousness. Okay? Again, you can see a state of consciousness, lowercase c, of that consciousness, cap c. So our consciousness is a fallen condition, diminished condition of the Chit Shakti. Same thing again with the energy. He's putting lowercase energy and higher case energy. It's a way of telling you that our vital is nothing but a fallen condition of that Shakti at the higher level. Then a will to delight of being, a delight of consciousness, delight of energy, born of the delight. Here also delight is putting lowercase and finally the delight that is Ananda is putting a D cap. Okay? Very clear what he's saying. We are really such Ananda, but in a fallen condition. We have to realize what we are. This is the root principle of our existence. But the root principle of our existence, man is essentially divine. He has to find it. Which is a direct contradiction of many, many religions, the other religions. But our surface formulation of these things is not that. Surface formulation, body, mind, life. of these things is not there. It's a mistranslation into the terms of the ignorance. It's a diminution, degradation, and a diversification of the ego. It becomes much less.
Limitation. Limitation.
Okay, all right. Our I is not that spiritual being which can look on the divine. Our I, the ego, is not that which can look on the divine existence and say, that I am. So what is that I am? He is putting in inverted commas. He is referring to the Sanskrit the Vedantic formula, Soham Asmi. So our mentality is not that spiritual consciousness. Our will is not that force of consciousness. Our pain and pleasure, even our highest joys and ecstasies, are not that delight of existence. But it is connected. We are connected to that and we have to find out the connection and become that. On the surface, we are still an ego figuring self, an ego which represents self, an ignorance turning into knowledge, a will laboring towards true force, a desire seeking for the delight of existence. To become ourselves by exceeding ourselves. Now very clearly he is saying you have to exceed yourself. Go out of the body-mind life and see yourself to be separate from it. So we may turn the inspired phrase of the half-blind seer. Swami often uses the word half-blind seer for Nietzsche. Okay? Because Nietzsche knew the potentiality of man, but he exaggerated it to say that man should become the dominant, the person who is dominant. Lion man, camel man, and all that he described. So Swami called him a blind seer because he overstressed the power aspect of man and the divine. Power aspect only, not consciousness aspect, not Ananda aspect. Okay? In fact, they say there is a theory that says that Nietzsche's philosophy was the starting point of Nazism. Many people say no, it is not, but some do say believe in that. And those who are the Aryan race, they are superior to the others and they have the right to dominate over them. So that became the Nazi philosophy. Half-blind seer who knew not the self of this is good. It is a difficult and dangerous necessity. The cross surmounted by an invisible crown which is imposed on us. The riddle of the true nature of his being proposed to man by the dark sphinx of the inconscience. That's it. What is the secret of life? That will be the dark sphinx of the inconscience. There's a story now that the sphinx asked, you can't cross beyond me unless you ask, tell me the answer to my question. And the answer, I think the question was asked, which was asked was, what is it that walks on two legs at the beginning and on 4 legs in the beginning and 2 legs in the middle and 3 legs in the later stage of life. So what is that? I think that was the question. Anyway, so that is symbolic story. What its meaning is that inconscience challenges man to understand the nature of the universe. Very difficult. Unless you have spiritual experience, you can't understand. There is a dark sphinx of the inconscient. Below, okay, and from within and above, by the luminous veiled sphinx of the infinite consciousness. Very interesting simply using, even above is dark for us. So even the veiled sphinx of the infinite consciousness, we don't know. In other places, he says that man is confronted by 2 darknesses. One is below him, he doesn't understand the animal, he doesn't understand what is matter, and neither does he understand God. So he is up is also dark and below also is dark. This is man's condition. He says that it is like that. Elsewhere. So, dark, luminous, veiled sphinx of the infinite consciousness and eternal wisdom confronting him as an inscrutable divine mind. To exceed ego and be our true self, To be aware of our real being, to possess it, to possess a real delight of being, is therefore the ultimate meaning of our life here. Not the word here, in the physical world, not there, not elsewhere. It is that the concealed sense of our individual and terrestrial existence. Again, he is stressing that individual is okay, but it should be in the terrestrial existence. That is self. The Buddhist and the Mayavadan will say the concealed sense of the individual existence and stop there, but certainly including terrestrial existence. Okay? So we stop here today. We have gone 4 minutes beyond our time. Intellectual knowledge. This we'll do next time. Tomorrow. Tomorrow itself. Geeta, don't cut the line. I want to talk to you just briefly.
Yes, Nanda.
Yeah, just 1 second.
Thank you, Rangana.
Au revoir, everybody.
Merci
Have a nice day.
beaucoup.
Thank you, Rangana.
Today is the so we are free.
Thank you, Dada. Au revoir.
Au revoir.